everybody, this is Chris of the Carnivora Project, and I am finally done with the Carnivora Gardinum Biolapse set. Can't wait to move on to the next one. But this last one, I mean, I put over a year of effort into it. The actual filming took over 100 days. I think it was just under 110 days of non-stop filming around the clock with 2 cameras triggering away the whole time. All the clips and everything have all been rendered. They've all been put together in a video that should already be out by now. This is actually the day before I plan to release the video. I wanted to put together a little bit of a behind the scenes thing so you can see some of the stuff that I've been doing. You can also go to my website, it's biolapse.com, and get more information about the equipment I use, the systems that I've been building, how I go about it, any techniques and tricks that I have for eliminating certain aspects that might be unwanted with your biolapse films. I prefer the term biolapse. I think it rolls off the tongue a little bit better than plant lapse, which kind of feels like a train wreck to me. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you enjoyed the biolapse film, and I can't wait to show you what I've got coming up next. Thank you. Welcome to the Biolapse set. This is where I've been doing all the filming. My goal was to make everything look like it was done outside, and shooting outside poses a whole lot of challenges, plus this is not the area where these plants normally live. So this has actually all been done in my basement. And using selective angles, I can really kind of fill it up, put a lot of background in there, and make it look like it really was filmed outside, or at least give a strong illusion that kind of hints towards that. But all you got to do is just move a little bit. And you can see this is clearly not outside. I'm just using pretty selective angles. In fact, everything is just done on an old air hockey table that I've covered up with plastic. This way, if anything leaks, it's not really a big deal. It just goes on the plastic and will dissipate. So this is the Biolapse set. This is the BCM, the Biolapse Control Module. It's got switched outlets on the side, a temperature humidity gauge. It's actually got 2. It's got another one built in. I have 2 there for redundancy in case one fails. I don't want to. The fogger I built, or the humidifier I built, is pretty burly, and it can definitely swamp up this room if I'm not careful. So I opted for double redundancy, and I got some controls here where I can. This is very similar to the way that Kronos is built when it comes to controls. I have a mode dial, I have an adjustment dial, and I can select all these different things to control various aspects. It will control the all the timed events for the cameras and lighting and environmental controls. It'll take care of heat, temperature, humidity, watering cycles, the grow light's day and night cycles, and the fill light. And it'll even shut off the grow light and turn on the fill light when the camera takes an image, and then revert back to the growing cycle. This way it can get really nice, even, consistent shots of the plants as they grow while doing day and night cycles. And generally I keep the night cycle to about an hour. Most of it's really just daylight, because these plants really need a lot. They need a lot of sunlight. So looking at the set, you can see I've got several main parts here. Right now I have this tray here that I fill with water, and I can fill it up to this line, and I can keep an easy idea of how much water is in there. And by having a larger tray full of water that I set the plants in, this keeps the ground, or the plants, from like raising and sinking as I water it and then as it dries out. So this keeps a very smooth, consistent level, and I really found this to be useful. Plus, it's easy for me to move these things around and reorientate them anywhere that I need them to go for the cameras. You'll also see that I have various pieces like this, and this wood, and extra plants, and those things can be kind of moved around at will in order to change up the background so it's not so obvious it's always in front of the same part. However, as you can see here, we also have these larger set segments. And if you look at it, these are things that I built. And they were not incredibly hard. I found instructions on how to do this stuff for building aquarium and terrarium backgrounds. Basically, what you do is you need to get a bunch of cardboard. You cut out the basic shape. Then you'll use foam, spray insulation foam, in order to build up the areas. Once you have those areas built up, you cover it in kind of like a black caulking material that'll kind of hide whatever parts don't get covered. And when you have it nice and covered and all the caulk and it's wet and ready to go, you just dump coconut fiber all over it and press it in there. And that gives it a really good earthy dirt-like appearance. And then when you're done, you can garnish it with little bits of fake moss and twigs and leaves and stuff like that, in order to give it the appearance that, you know, it's you're outside, or to make it look a little bit more natural. And of course we have the cameras. So I drank the Fuji Kool-Aid. I admit it. I absolutely love Fuji cameras. They are just wonderful. They work very well. They've got excellent output. The only thing that's not so great about them is the RAW support isn't that good, but their internal JPEG conversion is just fantastic. And I've never really had an issue with the JPEGs that are coming out of this. Plus, for this type of work, I don't really need full frame level dynamic range. And these things do have some fantastic dynamic range, but I completely control the light levels in here. If I have anything blown out or, you know, not enough light, that's definitely something that I did wrong. So this is an XE1. This is my first Fuji, and I've been using Nikon lenses with it. This is the 60mm macro lens, and then there's just a Photo DX adapter on here. The battery, as you can see, I've got this power cable going into it. I hacked the battery and put a little voltage regulator, DC to DC voltage regulator, and this is a 12-volt feed coming in, and the voltage regulator was small enough to cram inside the battery, so I gutted the battery, stuffed that in there, and that's how I have that. And then, of course, this is what triggers the camera. This one's got a pretty nice screen. It's easy to see what's on there. Looking through the viewfinder for this is not very easy, so I appreciate having this. But this XM1, I think, is better for this type of work, and mainly just because it's got this articulating screen, which makes it very easy to see. It still has full manual support, and once again, I run my own power to it, and it's a cheaper camera, and it doesn't have the EFV, which is fine because I really don't need it for this type of work. So eventually, when I end up killing this one, and I know I will, I'm probably going to replace it with another one of these, and hopefully by then I can get a gently used one for not very much. I think I only paid about $350 for this camera, so it's a pretty good deal. They both work very well. I use iFi cards in them, so that way it will wirelessly broadcast the images up to my computer. That way I don't have to sit there and I don't have to sit here and come in and do a review through the images and potentially move the camera. You know, all I have to do is hop onto my computer upstairs. I can take a look at the output. I can even go ahead and stitch it together and get an idea how well the time lapse is going. As for the intervals with this shoot, I've been doing intervals of about 15 to 20 minutes. It really depends on what you're doing. If you're doing these pitcher plants and you're trying to get these to grow, you really want to do 25-30 minutes in interval. Fly traps, 15 minutes seems to work pretty fine. And the same with the sundew. Much faster than that. You could probably do 10 minutes, but I would actually rather overshoot and get more images than needed, because I can always speed it up when I'm doing the post-processing. I can't necessarily slow it down. I mean, I can only slow it down so much before it starts looking kind of choppy. Now for the Moco gear. This is the fun stuff. At first, for the first probably 60 days that I was shooting, I didn't use any motion control equipment at all, and that's mainly because I was trying to keep my variables down. I was really wanting to make sure that I'm going to get smooth, consistent results with the rest of the stuff, so adding motion in seemed a little bit like a bad idea, because I didn't want to have to troubleshoot too many things at once. But right now, what I have is I've got one of our Kronos light rails. This is one of our ultralight systems. It only weighs about 5 pounds. And this doesn't look quite like the ones that we produce and sell. I've got an older style carriage on it, which is a little bit longer. I've got a different motor on it. And I never bothered to put a sheath on here. I was just being kind of lazy, but it's my own rail, so I'm not really that concerned about it. What I like about those, the movement resolution is fantastic. Rather than go with a belt, it used a lead screw, and I can literally cut the movements up here to just incredibly tiny amounts, up to 1/32 thousandths of an inch. I've been able to do ramp movements of 400, 500 shots over the course of 1 inch, where it's actually using variable distances between each one. And I think the smallest one was about 1/32 thousandths of an inch. So for this kind of work is fantastic because I don't really have any limitation on how short the movement can go. So I can bring the camera really close up to the plants and get very tiny amounts of movement over like 500-600 shots, and it's just not an issue. And then you also see here, I got the lens apparatus. And I found the easiest way when using a lens apparatus for this work is I will actually just put some tape on here and I'll mark the near point so I'll know everything up close is in focus, and then I'll just rotate this until the back part is in focus, and that's the far point. Once I have those two marked on here, I'll just use a controller and run a basic A to B keyframe. And it's worked fantastic. You see the results in the video. It's a very simple system to use. It's got a lot of capability to overcome issues with fly-by-wire lenses, which gets a little bit more complicated. But if you're just using old manual lenses, this thing is absolutely a piece of cake to use. It doesn't take very long to get good with it. Then I also have an Emotomo that I used for a few shots. Only one of them made it into the final cut. It works pretty well. I found I have to make this little special cable to connect it to my chrono controllers, to where it can actually see the signal from my controller, because I can't bring the interval on this out long enough. It's maxes at, I believe, 10 minutes between intervals, and generally I'm shooting at least 15 minutes in between shots. But it did a really good job. It's got very, very high levels of movement resolution, far better than I really expected. It's just that when you're doing really close macro work with something like this, I found that my movements were way too much. They were a lot larger than I thought they were. A little bit of more practice and it would have been just fine. These are the plants. These are the stars of the show. I got pitcher plants, fly traps. I got more fly traps that are down over here right now, mainly because I'm already done shooting. I already put the video out. What I did is I just set everything back up so you can kind of see how I do it. Some of the fly traps I've already given away. This pitcher plant here is finally growing like crazy. He's got all these pitchers. The sundew's looking terrible, but most of these are going into dormancy period right now, so they're looking kind of crappy. And they do this every winter. So it was really pushing it to the limit in order to get the footage that I needed for these before they went into dormancy. So I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing next. I'd like to revisit this again sometime with some different plants. I'd really like to get more done with these because I think that's really cool the way this one's growing up. It didn't do a lot when I was filming, but all of a sudden now it's just like putting out these little pictures all over the place. So I'll probably revisit this again some point, but for now I'm done with the carnivorous plants. It's time to move on to a different project. I'm still going to be filming in here. I'm still be using most of the same equipment and gear, but I want to do something quite a bit different. I really want to look at something other than carnivorous plants for a while because I'm actually pretty sick of looking at these things. It's been a lot of fun, but it's time to move on.